14, Henry's missus. So it's a bit like Captain Mannerin's wife.
What's that message?
You're indoors. You're indoors.
Did you know she was in one episode?
Who?
Captain Mannerin's wife.
Oh, right. Yes, but she does work somewhere.
She was in one episode of Dad's Army. Did you ever see that guy's wife in Minder?
I remember there was sometimes you saw a woman in Dad's Army, but
Yeah, but that wasn't his missus.
sure, she's very nice.
No, she was a real bloody dragon.
Right.
So right,
Come on, you get on with this.
Has he been
Wait,
to the house yet?
hang on, no, we're not talking about your Mrs. Henry. We're talking about Captain Mannerin's.
Oh, oh, you are. You're getting us all into trouble. You are.
Oh God, I've upset Henry now.
No,
He's-
You're going to get paid in euros next
Henry.
time.
You're going to pay in euros? Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay. Is it? Right, okay. What we're going to do, last week we started looking at the concept of avenues and cursus monuments in the Neolithic period. Obviously, they're sites that we've come across before. Now, thanks to Margaret, who does the Tuesday evening class, we're actually looking at an avenue in Cumbria today. So that's going to be rather interesting. So everything's being recorded now. It's 7:20. I need to, Richard has to stay behind at the end because he's been a very bad boy. I need to talk to Richard. I would also like to say that I would like to ask, because we haven't seen Bill for a little bit. So I'm going to ask Bill, have you got any news, my young man?
I've got so much news that I've forgotten it all. Is that a logical statement?
Just,
No,
don't know where to start. Where have you
really.
been? Where have you been? We might have a clue.
Oh, hang on. Yes, I was in London over the weekend.
Oh,
But unfortunately, it wasn't history as such. It was natural history and the Science Museum and the
Oh,
Victorian
okay.
Albert. I had a full weekend on the museums, which is what I
Oh,
wanted to do.
yeah.
So you went to
Um,
the British
museums,
Museum as
they're
well,
worth
did you?
going.
No, I didn't get to the British. Just the three.
Yeah.
Right.
Natural science and V&A.
Did you have children with you?
Right,
What?
yeah.
Oh,
What
you didn't?
children? Bloody fear was on my own.
Oh,
Doing what-
right.
doing
Oh, no,
what I want-
that's where
doing what I
Joe
want to
went
do.
with
Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Right, Bill, anything else you want to tell us before we go on to
No,
Henry?
no, let's carry on. No.
Right, Henry, you usually got some nice news to tell us, right?
Well,
Any news from you this week, Henry?
well, surprisingly, I've got absolutely nothing. There doesn't seem to be anything happening in the world of archaeology. It's as dead as a dodo.
No, it is.
But I
I-
did enjoy your lecture last week, but I was surprised you didn't mention me.
What did you hang on a minute? Stop. I thought you actually took part in last week's lecture.
No.
Oh, you weren't even here. All right. Okay.
Yeah, too many other people to talk to.
No. Yeah. No. I gotta be really apologetic to Henry, right? Because he's got special needs, and we got to look after him.
Yeah.
Right. So now, before we actually get onto the lecture proper, I would like to ask: have you got anything you'd like to tell us, Richard? Just give us one nugget of news. Richard?
He's turned his mic off.
Yeah, he does that, Richard.
Well,
Does
I
he?
was closing the door. Telly was blaring in the background. No, nothing really of any note, I don't think.
I tell you, these kept women, they've got watching television. Women have got so many rights these days. It's terrible. Right. Okay.
Can I make a point before we start? I've always made a point that I don't like actually doing lectures late at night. Is there any reason why we switched from 6 o'clock to 7:15? Does it suit you or does it suit us?
It suits me.
It
No,
suits you, right?
hang on, he's asking me a question, you
Oh.
silly woman.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, well, would the others be able to start at 6 o'clock? And you?
Well,
You
No,
no,
said,
it was-
I know, no, hang on, Anne, shut up. God's
just give me a
sake.
straight answer.
No, it's not about me. It's just trying to get everybody into one thing. I know Goff can't make it earlier, and I'm not sure about Henry.
Well, Goff's
And
not here.
the other thing as well is as summer is approaching rapidly, it's going to be very difficult to be teaching at 6 o'clock because
For you.
because obviously there's a lot going on here. So it's 5 of one and 5 of another. Bill.
So 7:15 benefits you then, not us.
No, there's I'm Goff would struggle earlier. So
But Goff's not here. What is he?
yeah, hang on, this is the only week he hasn't been here.
no.
Oh,
I have to say that, it interferes with my family life starting at 6 o'clock.
oh,
Well, that's
yeah,
okay.
as long as people, as
Why
people
can't you have
can
your
make their own
dinner
decision.
okay.
before?
Right, guys. Right,
Right,
let's
okay.
crack on. Otherwise we're not going to get this done. Right. So what we're going to do is last week I introduced, because we've mentioned it quite a bit actually. I introduced the concept of avenues and basically we talked about cursus monuments. And what we've got today is a wonderful monument in Cumbria known as the Shopstone Avenue, which says some intriguing sort of background to this monument. And then we'll look at the cursus monument in Dorset. Now, word of warning, this lecture on Tuesday, we didn't finish until 10:15 last night, but obviously what I do, I fit everything into a lot shorter lecture, so that's what we're doing now. So the Shop Avenue, it came to me because one of our people in Cumbria had mentioned it, and I thought, right, I've given you the site at Arborough, which nobody had ever heard of. We looked at the 3 henge monuments last week, right? So more northern sites, and which we knew of, which most of us had known about anyway. So today we're going to look at this site, which I've never come across before in Cumbria. So we'll give you an idea where it is first. We'll just shoot through the images. And one thing that really worked effective last night was for me not to have prepared part of the lecture. And what I mean by that, I deliberately decided not to show images of a certain area of the site at Shap. So what we did, we went on Google and we all learned, and this is what we did last night, and I'm going to do a bit of that tonight. I could have pre-prepared it because we'd already done it yesterday, but I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. We're going to go on a little bit of a exploration adventure again tonight. We're going to get on Google and look at those images, but before we do that, I want us to go and find out more about this site that I want to introduce to you tonight. So what we've got these images straight away. It's working out, the technology is working really, really well. And I know I've mentioned it a few times, and me and Goff have a little bit of a joke over it. When we were testing out this technology on the new device that I got in front of me, and it's with this time last year, I did indeed give a lecture to Goff in the goat shed. So thanks to so we've mastered this bit of technology. So the Shopstone Avenue. Now you could think that this is what the Shap Avenue looks like, as in over 200 years ago, or is it very different than this? Right, what you can see in front of you is actually a stone circle, and most of that stone circle is no longer with us. In fact, oh, by the way, Richard, can you add Kate as well?
Yeah.
Right, good. I don't know what Kate's doing, but there you go. She's just joined us. So the Shopstone Avenue, in the past 250 years, half of it has been removed. In fact, some say a lot more than that. The Shopstone Avenue is a series of monuments that tapering into one landscape. But as we know, as I keep saying, the prehistoric landscape is a landscape. It can never be seen as A, B, and C. A, B, and C are together as one stretched landscape. So the landscape at Shap could be concerned with the idea of something like Salisbury Plain. When you look at Salisbury Plain, there's loads of monuments everywhere. Avebury and the West Kennet Avenue and Brockhampstead and all the rest of it is a landscape. But lots of these landscapes are ruptured and damaged. And one thing that I will immediately say about this type of landscape today is that we've probably only got about 10% of the original landscape that once existed at Shap with us today from the Neolithic period. It's also as well that the interpretation of the landscape is interpreting the landscape as a Neolithic landscape, and you will be wrong, because lots have been added to the Neolithic landscape since, and even in modern times. So the Shopstone Avenue, weirdly enough, we refer to it, it's an unofficial title given to this landscape. So alongside the road, there's bits of the avenue in walls. And basically, this is where we got Shap. It's near the M6. And we'll go back through these images. I want to show you where we are. We're south of Penrith. We're very, very near the M6. Now, it's a monument. Weirdly enough, it was argued last night by my Cumbria people that, in fact, Cumbria is there's a misheld belief that there's not a lot in Cumbria, archaeologically, historically wise. But when you actually go out and look around Cumbria, there's a lot, including women that should be avoided. But that's a personal thing. So the landscape of Cumbria is full of avenues, stone circles, various other things, burial mounds, lots of other things. And it's the avenue itself, amazingly enough, is 2 miles long, right? It's at least 2 miles long. Is it the same type of avenue as regards to the avenue associated with Stonehenge? And the avenue associated with Stonehenge is slightly different. It's more of a few stones, a little bit of a bank and a ditch, right? That's one type of avenue. You've got, for example, the avenue at Avebury, an avenue of stones. You can also have an avenue of posts, right? These are very different from cursus monuments, which we will come on to. Basically, the difference between avenue and a cursus monument is that the avenue has a set beginning and an end. A cursus monument doesn't have a beginning and an end because the bank goes in a parallel line. So you've got one bank there, one bank there, 2 parallel lines. They meet and they curve and they meet each other and they go all the way around, and there's no way in or out. That's basically a crude way of describing a cursus monument, right? Avenues have an open area at the beginning, an open area at the end. That's basically the pure difference between these monuments. So let's just think, and what we've got here, that there is not this monument. It's in fact the cursus monument at Dorset, right? That's what we'll do in a fair bit. So we're going to do a bit of comparison, right? And so what we've got these stones. These actually comprise a circle that is actually down here at Kemp Howe. Now this is a rather interesting map. This is care of a website that looks at the modern antiquarian group, and they do lots of things like this. It's a page that's on the internet which I sometimes refer to. So this is one of their plans. Thank you very much. But what we've got there is that this here on the left, these little red things represent some of the stones, right, that actually equate to what's here. Right, so there we go. What we'll look at the Gobbleb Stone, Gobbleb Stone, the Asper's Fieldstone, and we'll look at an image of Skellower Hill and the Thunderstone. We'll look at all these. So when we read through them, like when we go through this description, what I do, I show you this, and we go on to Google. So that's what we do. So I know somebody that used to work for me, basically commented that I use Google too much. Tough. I'm going to be using Google tonight to the best degree. So the Shopstone Avenue, as you look at this, you can clearly see that if you look there, you've got the village there on that Shap, right? Apparently the A6. That was the main road up to the north, and now just near it, just over on the right there, there's the M6, right? That used to be the old way to the north. Nobody really visits Shap now, apparently, but quote unquote somebody from Cumbria. So if you look at this, you've got the one with the Thunderstone. That's believed to be one avenue, and then you've got another avenue here running all the way down. Yeah, running all the way down. There's some school of thought that it's not an avenue, it's what's left of a large congregation of stones that have been erected in the area. It could be said, as one of my new guys, some of you have met Adam, or was it Peter? No, it was Adam last night. He basically said, is this like these stones at Karnak? And you're just thinking, maybe it might be, but there's not many stones left here. If you want to compare it with Karnak, and as we know that there's a lot less stones at Karnak than there originally was, and we know in historic memory there were a lot more stones here, a lot more stones here, right? So the one thing to remember, looking way into the distance, right? Did it look like this? Well, this is an antiquarian profile of what they think it may have looked like. But what you do today, as you drive through Shap, you get bits of the stones in a wall that's almost been sort of regrouped. So this could be said to be in the category of three great Cumbrian landscapes of prehistory. One being part of the site that we looked at last week. We looked at the Stonehenge Monument last week. That's one of the major landscapes in Cumbria. And the other one is the Long Meg complex of monuments, which is associated with the River Eden in Cumbria. And when we think about all of this, is that there is a lot more going on in Cumbria than meets the eye. Whenever you think about Cumbria, you think about Roman remains, and you'd be wrong for thinking that that's all that's in Cumbria. So this itself, this is a landscape in Cumbria. We've got a little bit of a stone circle here, maybe more stone circles. There's evidence of barrows here, maybe evidence of cairns. So this monument itself, the idea of the avenue running to the east of the River Lowther, along a main route to the north, right? Well, it's a main route to the north now. It's there, and obviously the Maybury Henge and the other henges run alongside the River Ermont near its confluence to the River Lowther. So there's links between all these sites. And it must be said that we think too much about monuments in the south, and what we do is we think that the rest of Britain is based upon the principles of the monuments in the south. And what we mean by that is that sometimes what we do, sorry, I'm a bit fidgety tonight. What we do is we think of Stonehenge and we think, right, the Ring of Brodgar on Orkney is like Stonehenge, and we think, no, Stonehenge is like the Ring of Brodgar. What we do, we stereotype our history in Britain based on stuff in the south, which is a danger. because we've got lots of really massively impressive remains across the whole of Britain. It'd be a bit like saying, well, you know, Hadrian's Wall, it needs to be compared with the Roman city wall in London. Absolute nonsense. It's a completely different monument. So the Shap Avenue site, but the actual boundaries of the complex remain in doubt. So we don't really know if it's 3 miles long, or it's just 2 miles long, or there were more stone circles, or it's like Karnak. Lots of the stones have been lost. And one thing that we can clearly say, it's a mix of monuments. And if we look at these stones here, these are what we would refer to as a stone circle monument down there, basically near Kemp Howe. And you can see these here. The railway actually cut directly through it. In historical memory, it just went through the monument. We just lost it. And if we think about these stones and we think about the texture of these stones, again, this is part of that sort of stone circle sort of arrangement, which we've lost most of it. They're natural erratics, and me and Bill have had lots of conversations about natural erratics and so on. And it's basically this itself is only part of the genre of the landscape, because some stones are clearly cut stones, or some stones are clearly quarried stones, where lots of other stones are erratic. There's also talk that the monument has been added to beyond the Neolithic period. So obviously stuff has been added to it in the Bronze Age, maybe stuff has been added to in the medieval period, or maybe stuff has been added to it in more recent times. So there's so many people who argue over this monument. There's so many, because it's not really been scientifically examined. This is why, now, I've got to explain something, right? And sometimes I maybe shouldn't be saying this. I'm usually really critical of a few archaeologists who, oh God, his name's gone out of my head. That's good, I can't libel him. There's a certain professor from a certain university keeps getting funding to do research projects with Stonehenge, and I'm saying, you know, there's only so much research you can do about Stonehenge. You need to be looking at these sites. You need to be analysing these sites. This is political now. Why does all the archaeological research work seem to take place in the south of England, right? Why is it that's the only important place for history and archaeology? When you get landscapes like this, and the University of Highlands and Islands, and you've got the Hebridean archaeologists as well, they're really trying to get stuff out there, but unfortunately there's a lack of funding. We should be looking at these sites. There is money out there for archaeology. It's absolute nonsense to say that there isn't money out there in archaeology. There's a lot of money out there in archaeology, and I would like to say that Time Team is back on TV because people were bothered to put their hands in their pockets to actually fund a brand new series of Time Team. So there is a lot of money out there in history and archaeology, but it's not being spent at the right places. We need more to know. We need to know what William Stukeley is saying about this site from the 1700s. We need to know about what Thomas Pennant, which is a name that you might not have come across, but those that know anything about Cumbria will know about the Lonsdale family, Lady Lonsdale, and George Hall. All of the descriptions about this landscape are very varied. Some people think these stones are part of the monument, these stones are not, and it's just a bit of a mix match of how to interpret this avenue, and trying to understand this, trying to really get to grips with what's going on. However, the avenue may be seen in the context of the valley in which it is placed. As I said earlier on, some people don't believe it's an avenue at all, but then again, how long's a piece of string? It's like it's almost like saying, well, you know, Silbury Hill isn't a mound of earth. Well, we don't need to go any further with that. The local county archaeologist is apparently still alive, so that's great. Now, a certain county archaeologist by the name of Clare, that's his surname, pointed out that the view to the east is restricted. So in other words, what we're doing is obviously, you know, the landscape is focused on looking toward the west and the south, There's apparently this, because there's humps and bumps, it's just a weird type of monument if you can get to grips with what he's saying. There's also a spring associated with this complex, and all of these features are similar to ones found at Long Meg and neighbour complexes as well. So I know one or two of you have been to Long Meg. I think Bill may have been there. The Shap complex has stone circles and cairns to the east of it. Such monuments themselves again paint this complex, this avenue within a larger scale monument, within a larger scale archaeology. Unfortunately, the village of Shap is in the way, and you've got the motorway nearby, so connection with these other monuments is rather fraught and difficult. In addition, the modern focus of some of the stones of Shap Avenue appear to be the burial mound. So we're going to look at that burial mound known as Skellow Hill, and obviously what we're thinking about is it slowly sort of, and then there's other focuses further south at Kemp Howe associated with various other things like barrows and so on. So what would be good, and what would be good is trying to get to grips. The archaeologist Tom Clare, he used to be the county archaeologist, did a lot of work here. And what we feel and what we see with this extended landscape is that there's been very, very little excavation. So the actual arrangement of the original stones in the avenue, so the Southern Avenue, Northern Avenue, and as they say, Tom Clare says it can be no longer determined without excavation. Now, it'd be interesting to see if you followed the entire length, whether there's holes in the ground indicating that there's other stones, or there might not be holes in the ground. This might be it. It's very difficult to work out what's going on, but what we do know is that the landscape of Shap, and you can see there that these here, these on the right there are basically on the road. So as you're going into Shap, they've actually been incorporated into walls and stuff. So that mucks a little bit with the context. So Tom Clare suggests that there were two avenues, if you think of that, one sort of north west of Skellow Hill there, and the other one south of it. And it says that Clare suggests that one consisting of a single, more widely spaced row to the west and northwest of Skellow Hill. So in other words, there's an alignment of stones rather than an avenue, right? Rather than two flanking sort of sets of stones. So up here, there's one alignment of stones. And then the other avenue at the south seems to be dual stones, two stones opposite each other, a bit like the one at West Kennet Avenue. So what we can clearly see, there's a bit of an arc associated with this monument. It sort of arcs towards the west, and he points out more that this geology of this landscape are of pink granite, which the pink granite stones, which seem to dominate the stones on the northern. Which seem to dominate the stones on the northern parts of the avenue, and basically, and then you've got glacial stones. So, what we're going to do in a moment, we're just going to flick through these images, and we're going to think, right, we've got no more to show you, but what we're going to do is go on Google, exactly what we did last night, a bit of an exploration. We might sort of allow us to see a few more images of the monuments that we're going to talk about. So what would be best if some of you maybe get a bit of a pen and you write at the top of the paper the Thunderstone, and then you've got these here, you've got Skellow Hill, because we'll be doing this in sort of order, and underneath that Asper and Gobbleb Stone. So the big question is Asper the top of the Southern Avenue, or is it still part of the Northern Avenue? But clearly we've got two separate avenues. And what we've got the Asper Field, then we've got the Gobbleb Stone there. So you want to write that on a piece of paper, and then you've got a bit of a line all the way down. And then what we then find is the Kemp Howe stone circle, which is rather interesting. We'll go with that, and we'll think about the dating there as well. We'll think about how this all sets in with the dating. So what we're going to do now, we're going to flick through some of these images. You've got an idea of what's going on there, right? So we know the stone circle's down at Kemp Howe, the lower part, right? We've got this in order, so we can work that out. So what we're going to do, we're going to start at the beginning again, and we're going to go right. That's sort of an image from over 200 odd years ago, 250 odd years ago. That image is from, and interesting enough, I thought it was rather interesting today that I actually had with me a publication from 250 years ago, another one from 200 years ago, and another publication from 150 years ago. And one thing that I will say, and that the statement that I will make, is that I think books are far more important for research than the internet, because Richard has been very good in doing research for Barry Paddington book, and has been very effective with that. But sometimes we look at books and there's other additional information, so we can't dismiss books. There's a lot in them, right? And sometimes we don't get everything that we need on the internet. So, you know, still keep those books, still research those books. And I feel that that's a really good medium to still be able to understand the past. So again, this is sort of the lower part. This is the lower part of the avenue. Stones, they almost look like they're broken. And in a way, that looks like that pink granite, doesn't it? Rather than the glacial stuff further south. That looks a bit like the pink granite. Well, that's part of the lower sort of the lower avenue, but you can clearly see that's pink. Yeah, there's no doubt about it, pink granite. And it's almost as if somebody's come along and sort of, what we'll do, we'll break some of these stones up and we'll sort of make them into a wall. So that's sort of what's going on there, to sort of get some kind of perspex on that, try and sort of gleam into this sort of expanse. And what we've got there, again, another sort of illustration. Somebody argued last night. They sort of said, well, that looks too good, doesn't it? You know, that sort of, you know, that looks very artistic. You know, it looks sort of very much as if, you know, that's what somebody felt it looked like. But then again, it may have looked like that 300 years ago. There's lots of stones have been taken away. And, you know, I had a bit of a tussle last night. This was with Peter C, one of the sort of fairly new guys. I said, oh, look, you know, in Britain, we've lost lots of our monuments because we've used them for quarrying. And Peter C said, well, they've done the same in France. And I think we came to sort of this thing that maybe in France is such a big place, and there's lots more stone about. That they needn't have destroyed all their monuments like we have, and that's probably a good place to stop, really, to try and get that sort of understanding. And again, looking at this map again, we'll now do a little bit more research. These sort of stones along there you go, the Kemp Howe circle, these boulders, and the railway line went straight through it. And we lost it. So what we're going to do, we're going to go off here now, and we're going to go onto Google, and we're going to move away from Joe Wiley. You could tell what I listen to, and what we're going to do. If you type in Thunderstone, right? If you type in Thunderstone Shap, you get it straight away, right? Now, this is rather interesting, the Thunderstone itself. Now, that Thunderstone here, when I first saw it, it reminded me, there you go, the megalithic portal. There's lots on that side, megalithic portal. That Thunderstone reminded me of that big, massive stone on the Gower. That reminded me of the Arthur Stone, and I was taken aback by this, and I just thought, you know, it's slightly smaller than the Arthur Stone, and it's you know, it's very, but actually, if you squint your eye, you could almost be thinking that this is the Arthur stone on the Gower. And this stone itself has been there for a very, very long time. Some people have argued that this is actually, you know, this is not part of the avenue, right? And then I take myself back a bit and I'm thinking, well, I think to myself, I'm thinking, well, how can it not be part of this landscape of the Neolithic? Because it's there before the Neolithic. Didn't come after, it's there. So it must have been, obviously, if you're walking this avenue in the Neolithic period over 5,000 years ago, this stone's there. You can't not know it's there, right? So it's part of the Neolithic landscape, and it sort of emboldens that sort of sense of longevity because it is there, and it's a glacial boulder as well. So this major monument in the north west of Shap, modern day Shap, as we sort of curve into Shap, this is massive. I would need to sort of get an idea of this and sort of get close to it. But my idea of weight a nation, this is between 10 and 20 tons in weight. This is a glacial stone. This stone has been there for 14,000 years. It's not moved, it's not changed. And this is a moment in time that's remained. Again, my notes tell me may not thus be part of the constructed avenue, but I'm saying it is, because it cannot not be, because it's there. The whole point is, in the past, people build a relationship with their landscape.
Yeah.
Seeing as this is there, it must have been. End of. Go on.
I wouldn't be surprised if you know, stones like that just start off the avenue. You know, they start off putting more.
It does. It does, because it's at the top of the avenue, right?
Yeah.
And
inspires them to put more stones, you know, and create.
And actually, I would totally agree with what you've just said.
Yeah.
The one thing that we're doing on the Gower is that we're making it into a chamber, right? So what they've done, they've undermined one end of it and they put a stone there. They've undermined another end of it, put a stone there. And at the end of the day, what they've done is that the stone is then suspended, and you're thinking, how did these people move a 15, 20-ton stone? And they never did, because it's always been there. But it's that idea that the stone is floating, and somehow we've had control of it, and somehow we've moved it. I love that sort of concept. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at the Scalau Hill Barrow. But again, it's interesting to sort of that's not the same site, surely. No, it's not. So there we go. And we're looking at this and we're thinking it in the raw. It's a type of stone that you'd see at this time of year. And do you know what? I was looking at this landscape and I thought, bloody hell, I could be in last of the summer wine. But it's obviously it's in Cumbria, so it's nothing to do with that. But and this again, I couldn't really get this clear, so I didn't actually use this. But what you can see there, you can see that it marks the Thunderstone there. You can see it slightly at the top of the screen. And what we're going to do next is we're going to look at the one that is Scalau Barrow, which is there, which is also known as the Hill of the Skulls. That's where we're going to go next on the right. You can see that writing there, even if it's not clear, which it isn't. And that's where we're going to go next. So it would be interesting to sort of that's where we're going to go next. So again, you can get an idea of these as well. That's something else. The next one, the one after that, is going to be the Asper Fieldstone, which we're not going to do a moment. But what I'd like to do is I would like to I think what I did, we went to Scalau Hill Barrow, and we got a bit of a source on the internet as well. The reason why I did this yesterday and I expanded the lecture more, because I thought yeah, people needed this. And what we've got is this is the Scalau Hill Barrow next. And what I did, I saw this and I thought, right, there's nothing there. So we look at the official entry, scheduled ancient monument, and this is the details of the Scalau Hill tumulus. It's marked as a tumulus. Nice bit of a map there. So you've got Thunderstone there, Scalau Hill, Shap over there, and you can actually start to see other stones within this landscape. And then we're going to be one of those is the Asper Fieldstone, and then the other one is the Gobbleb Stone. Right, so there's still some other stones within our landscape. It's not all been analysed or understood. So what we do, we'll show you the Scalau Hill monument. Right, if we go here, we look at the images. There's not a lot to see. It's just a crude tump in a field, right? But there was a lot more to see at one point. It's known as the Hill of Skulls. It's a round barrow, and it's described as 2.4 kilometers northwest of the Kemp Howe Stone Circle, which is a southern terminus of these avenue alignments. So if we go back there, and again we go back to this. Oh, hang on a minute, I've lost that a minute. Let's just we'll go back to this and see what this says about the Scalau Hill Barrow. So obviously the barrow, are we going to say that the barrow is a later date? We are. The barrow is later in date than the avenue. It's a bowl barrow. It's a bowl barrow. It's Bronze Age. It's not Neolithic. We're supposed to be doing Neolithic. But obviously the Neolithic landscape moved nicely into the Bronze Age, and the Bronze Age moved nicely into the Iron Age. It's all transitional stuff, as we've established before. So it's talking about this monument. It's a bowl barrow, and it's designated, it's protected. It's had some plough damage, and limited antiquarian investigation of Scalau Hill a bowl barrow survives well. This investigation located human bones and chert, and further evidence of interments and grave goods will exist within the mound and upon the old land surface. So that's rather interesting that we're saying that, because we've got a mound that's got lots of burials associated with it. So it's really early. It's really early Bronze Age. Maybe it might sort of start at the end of the Neolithic period. So the monument at Scalau Hill, a bowl barrow, of course, dominating the landscape, and is located towards the southern end of the summit of the ridge of Scalau Hill, and includes a circle mound of earth and stones. And some of those stones would have actually naturally have come from the breaking up of some of these stones associated with the avenue, or maybe it didn't. Maybe they completely respected it. It's 1.5 meters high today. The diameter is 17 meters, and limited antiquarian investigation of the mound located human bones, 2 pieces of chert were also found. So then what we then do, and it's also known as the Hill of Skulls. So what we do next is we go back, and then we go off on another journey. What we type in here, it should come up first. There we go. And we're going to look at Asper Fieldstone. Now this, so what we'll do, we'll come back to that there. It's on private land like most of these. And there it is. It's a rather odd monument. It's a very odd monument, and the description sort of says it's 9 feet high apparently, by 5 feet wide, and it's fallen on its side. It has got cut marks on it, and one with a single ring around it. And what we did, we looked at the images. That's that stone from earlier on. That's the one. This is the Asper Fieldstone. And what you can clearly see is the cut marks in it, left and right. So this again is a proper Neolithic type monument, possibly. And one thing I would say, one observation that I would say, it's not about the idea of it. It's not about the idea of the avenue being constructed in a week, right? This is a clear demonstration of a monument that's been created over a long time. So we're thinking maybe that the whole sort of stony landscape, forget the word avenue for a moment, the whole stony landscape is in many ways a landscape that's been evolved and developed over a long period of time. So if we think about these stones and so on have been moved and used and loved and left there and whatever over, say, 2,000 years, that'll be exactly the same process as happened at Stonehenge. Stonehenge was constructed over a 2,000-year period. Nobody sat there and said to Richard, you know what, Richard, we're going to build an avenue. And Richard's saying, well, you know, I'm not going to live 2,000 years to see it. No, nobody ever thought like that. It was a living and breathing sort of homogeneous movement of ideas over a long period of time. The Asper Fieldstone. And then what we then do is we go to this other link, and you've got that there. Hopefully this is going to go right. So we've got the Asper Fieldstone, and then we moved. Oh no, we didn't. Okay, that's not worked out the way I wanted it to. I was looking at something else yesterday. So cup and ring marks on this. It's talking about obviously petroglyphs. Petroglyphs are quite rare in Cumbria, but more regularly found in North Yorkshire and Northumberland, and at Kilmartin, which is further north. Examples of the Neolithic, megalithic art. There are 18 sites of megalithic art in Cumbria, and 20 individual stones. So at 2 of those locations, there's 2 of those sites, there's more than 1 stone. Unless these markings are very prominent, it's always difficult to tell whether they're the work of man or something else. And obviously we've got Little Meg as well, which we've mentioned. The Asper Fieldstone stands on private land, 150 yards to the north of the Gobbleb Stone, which is the one we're going to look at next, at the northernmost end of the Shap Avenue, or the lower Shap Avenue. It is large, partly topped megalith, and on its southeast corner, as we know, we've got cut marks, and the cup is about 5 centimeters wide by 2 deep, and the ring about 20 centimeters in diameter. So we'll have a quick look at that one. There it is. There it is. So we got it's described again. If we mentioned 20 centimeters in diameter, and the cup is 5 centimeters wide and it's 2 centimeters deep. So there we go. So that's the one there, and you've got another one there of a ring. So you've got a cup and ring mark, typically Neolithic, and obviously we'll have more expansions and examinations of this type of monument, no doubt in the near future. So what we're going to do next, we're going to look at the mobile megalithic portal. There's lots of people really interested in these stone sites, and I'm going to say it. This has suddenly occurred to me, right? And this is going to sound absolute nuts. There seems to be a lot more interest in There seems to be a lot more interest in prehistoric remains in Britain than there is on Roman remains in Britain, because there seems to be, I don't know, there seems to be a lot more people interested in prehistory in Britain. I don't know why. It's an unusual statement to make, but this is what I'm seeing. Lots of people, lots more. What you do see is you see lots more people going out looking at prehistoric sites rather than looking at Roman sites. There seems to be a lot more activity. You got it from me. So the Gobbleb Stone is the next one that we're going to look at now. Oh, what's that there? Oh, what's this here? Just tick yes. Visit Cumbria. Hang on a minute. I've probably downloaded some kind of porn site now. Great. No, we don't want that. Right. Okay. We'll not go with that one. Hang on. Don't think this is the one we looked at yesterday. Hang on a minute. hang on, Gobbleb Stone. There, we'll look at that one. Again, this wonderful site. There it is, this massive stone. And that's not right. A 2.3 meter high stone. Well, that would mean that those guys are 7 foot tall, at least. So I think that description is slightly wrong, but it's this other stone. It's a really chunky stone. It's really, really interesting. Gobbleb Stone is visible for miles around. It sticks out. I actually felt that this was a bit like the Pile Stone. Some of you have been there's a stone in Pile, and I've nearly crashed the car several times on the motorway trying to see where this stone is from the motorway, which is rather stupid of me while I'm driving. But so as you sort of head out from Bridgend and you go over the flyover that heads towards Port Talbot, and on the left you've got Kenfig, but before that on the right you've got Pile. If you're a passenger, you can see a standing stone on the field on the right as you're heading towards Port Talbot. And this stone, yeah, well, you've been there with me.
Yeah, we've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, we were chased around the field by cows, and Pat was panicking. That's the one. I think. Oh my God! I think there was the Anne Holton on that one as well.
Oh God!
Yeah, she was wearing a pink. She was wearing a pink Wellingtons, if I can remember. So this itself, it is a little disconcerting to find the stone has been concreted into place to keep it upright, but it is nice to see the stone as it would have been rather than lying on the ground. Now, I went off in a bit of a tangent yesterday, and I actually regretted it because it was not what I actually meant. So the Gobbleb Stone had fallen, but was re-erected by Tom Clare, the county archaeologist, after having excavated it. And I immediately said, "Oh, I don't like the idea of this as being re-erected. You know, as you know, what's going on?" But it was actually re-erected in situ, and hopefully it was re-erected in the right way by the very, very experienced Tom Clark. He's now retired as the county archaeologist. So, okay, he did something, he sort of reconstructed this, why there's concrete around it, right? But this monument itself, I do believe probably eventually the right thing was done by actually re-erecting it in the field rather than sort of somewhere else. And you can get an idea of these rather interesting stone there, rather sort of tapering, interesting, and so on. So that's the Gobbleb Stone. So what I'd like to do now is, and by the way, when we've done the circle, the South Shap Circle, stone circle, and there's apparently carvings on this stone as well. When we've done the South Shap Stone Circle, I'm going to need a tiny little bit of a break before we do a tiny bit about the Dorset Cursus Monument, which we're not going to complete today. The aim was not to complete that today. But what we're going to do, we're going to type in the South Shap. There we go. I've already done it. There we go. And what we've got, South Cumbria. Oh my God, we didn't see this yesterday. You can see, oh, you can see that there, can't you? The railway complete. I didn't have this yesterday. I'm really pleased I clicked onto this link. You can actually see that was actually fairly complete apparently before they put the railway there. And when they put the railway there, obviously you can see that they removed the stones. Bastards. Yeah. Anyway, that's the Victorian view. The remains of the stone circle lie on the A6 road opposite the former petrol station, close to a railway embankment. Well, no, it sort of lays, you'd have to go across the railway to actually get to it. I'm not doing that. So Stone Circle is badly damaged. The Victorian railway builders having driven their line right through the circle itself, and only 6 pink granite stones remain in place. All of the stones have fallen. They once formed a circle with a diameter of about 14 meters, or they always looked like that. We don't know. They may have always looked like that. I think that's a really nice image. You don't often see that. Railway line, stone circle. Very, very odd image, actually. I'm really appreciating that because I didn't actually see that. 1 minute you've got the A6, and then you've got the railway, and there's the stones. And obviously, doesn't from what I can see, there's not much of an embankment either. So we'll look at the other images as well. So this is that sort of stone circle, or part of the stone circle. I don't know if it's me, but I didn't see that image on the left yesterday. And this is it looking from the north to the south west, and you can actually see that there is a really powerful view there over the moors. Now, there would have been a lot more trees back then. It would have been probably still heavy wooded. This is rather interesting. Were these always sat on the ground, glacially rolled there, or were they upright? I would actually disagree with the writer who's saying that they created a stone circle that was standing. I believe it was a stone circle that was lying as it is rather than anything else. And what else have we got? That gives you an idea of scale. That's you, Anne. There's Anne. That is you, Anne. Bill, does that look like Anne?
It does look like a younger Anne, yes, it does. What have you been up to, Anne?
Yes.
What have you been up to?
She's been trespassing on the railway, Bill, and she didn't want us to know. And I'm you know what? I'm loving this because it's just like putting it into context. You know, it's rather interesting that. Hang on a minute.
Can you work out the diameter looking at that?
It would have been pretty big.
It would curve around there, go into the other field, and then come back around again. Yeah.
Do you know it says the? Yeah, hang on. One quick thing. You know, the A6 is on the other plan. It's on the other way. It's on the other side.
Oh yeah.
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 Anyway. So we've got this beautiful monument. And yeah, so they're saying there was 14 stones. Well, if there's 6 there, right, there was a lot more than 14. The diameter, that's a pretty big diameter on that one. It really, really is. You know what, I'd like to know a little bit more about this to sort of, let's just see if we can, I don't know, maybe what we should just do is go on to, if there's, is there a Wikipedia page for this one? Don't think so. Shopstone Avenue, no. Yeah, it's very interesting to see that it may have actually been quite a big stone circle at one stage.
They are very large stones, aren't they?
Look at that.
Yeah.
You can see the sort of pink granite there, can't you? You can sort of see a little bit of it. Right, here we go. 50, right, the inner circle is much better. No, is this the outer, hang on. Oh no, this is another site. Okay. Oh, this is about another site altogether. It's not actually about this one. But yeah, there it is. That's how it once looked. The one on the left, not the other two. The one on the left. So yeah, so you can clearly. Actually, there's only 14 stones there. Oh, this is so strange. It's because what we're looking at. Yeah,
that sketch on the left doesn't bear much resemblance to what we're seeing.
I don't think. I actually agree with you. It might be slightly exaggerated, Bill. I completely agree with what Bill's saying.
But there were more than 7 stones on that photograph.
Bill, you can see what they've done, can't you? The perspective's wrong.
Oh, totally, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
So in other words, whoever's drawn this has drawn how they think it looked rather than the actual portrayal. So I'm glad we've looked at that, and it's saying they once formed a circle with a diameter of about 14 meters. It doesn't make sense because if we, okay, I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but if we look at that, right, and we sort of, that stone on the left there, if we bring that a little bit further inwards and we sort of complete a complete circle, that's going to be more than 14 meters, surely.
Yeah, it definitely.
So I'm going to say that the antiquarians obviously recorded something and it was not a good portrayal. That's what we're going to leave with on that one. So what we are going to say is Tom Clare suggests that the avenues date to the later part of the Neolithic period, which would sort of make sense, sort of roughly 3,000. I'm going to go with about 5,100 years or something like that. The cursus monuments are a bit earlier. It's probably a bit earlier than the avenue at Stonehenge. It's also pointed out that by Tom Clare that the Shap complex is important because of the lack of a henge. There's no henge there, or a henge that we, a henge that we haven't found. And the layout with its similarities to the other two complexes, i.e. Mayborough Henge, which we looked at last week, and Long Meg, plus the choice of pink granite for the large stone suggests a similar ritualistic rationale beyond the monument, perhaps extended over several generations, which is something that I would completely agree with. On that note, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a momentary break for a couple of minutes. And if we want to find out if there's any questions on this bit, and then we'll go look at the Cursus monument at Dorset. So anyone, right, make it quick because I want a quick break. And somebody's put something in chat here. Let's see what the chat says. Have they found anything buried? Not yet. That's a quick answer to you, Henry. On maps, you have water either side of the stones. One a river, the other a beck. Well, yes, it's a closely associated with water, no doubt. I would go with that. Right. So, anyone want to say something quickly? We're gonna have basically a very, very short break.
All the single stones isolated from anything else on their own, they just could be glacial stones, and just marked accordingly by someone, inscribed or what.
Or they were revered for what they were in the landscape, and they may not have been moved. Yeah, I'd go with that.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, Bill, we're making presumption for presumption's sake, right? Instead of saying, look, they're there, they were revered for what they were there and not moved. As in, if you want to look at the Arthur Stone, rather than putting a carte blanche, this is an avenue, because the other ones in the south are obviously being positioned and stuff. But I completely agree with what you're saying. If it happened to be, but okay, Bill, right, what you need to do, you've got these big boulders, you move all the other boulders away and you leave these big boulders on the landscape. Vis-a-vis, you created a monument. Yeah. So, okay, what I want us to do is have a very, very short break, a really, really quick break, a 3-minute break, and I'll be with you in a moment.
All right. Bye.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Starting now. Go on then.
Now. Go.
On, bugger off.
Look, we've shut you off. You've got to shut yourself off. We don't want to watch you. Having a break. Oh, we got to watch him having a break.
Why is Henry blank? Is he still there? Henry? Oh,
Henry, you might have problems like me.
He's muted. It's all gone black.
The screen keeps flickering.
He's not there.
He's not there. He is. He's behind. He is. Well, he might be having a,
He's not there. Why is he black? Anne, where are you? I got a question for you as well. Oh. Oh, I got nothing at all. Nothing at all. Okay. 23rd. What are you? Whoops. Oh.
Well, I just spoke to Joe and he said that there's a Shap Abbey, There's ruins there.
Oh yeah.
I think it would be a nice trip. I think it would be a nice trip, don't you?
Well, what is that then? Trips are a thing of the past now, aren't they?
I know, but we could do our own.
You could.
Go on. We mustn't tell Carl though.
Oh yeah, you organise it. Okay, we'll go. Yeah.
Well, I do miss going, going places. Did I go somewhere? Did we go somewhere in March? Was it last March we went?
No, it was last October, wasn't it?
Oh no, you went in October.
Went to Newquay.
I didn't go to Wales. I went to
Chichester. And Fairborn, Roman Palace. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. That.
Yeah.
I saw Jess the other day.
Oh yeah, was she? How was she?
Yeah, she's very good. She's working hard, being social counsellor, socialist counsellor.
Yes, it's a pity she's gone because if she'd been here now, we would have probably had other trips maybe. But since Carl's relocated to West Wales, all that's gone.
Yeah. Well, we can always work something out.
No, you can't. You can, but no one will do it.
Oh, you mean I would have to do it, would I?
Oh no.
I would. I've organised a trip
somewhere.
I organised a trip to Ireland. I got myself there and back. I organised a trip for some other people as well.
Oh, you'd have born organiser, aren't you? Okay then.
Well, I could get you on a plane to Knock.
No, that's too ambitious, I think.
And then we could go and see Limerick.
Ah, that's a good idea.
You don't want to do that.
Oh, Henry's there, is he?
Yeah.
Where have you been, Henry?
I just popped out to the kitchen.
So you heard the start, then you disappear.
I know, I've been here all the time.
Yeah, he turned it off,
Yeah, because of the broadband issues, I have to shut the video off.
Totally black.
Oh yeah, we have weird things happening to our telly. Now we've linked it to the Wi-Fi.
Well, there's weird things on the telly all the time.
Have you heard about the Wick UFO?
Yeah, it landed.
It's landed, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, everybody's talking about UFOs now, aren't they? I saw Glenda the other day.
Oh, for God's sake. All right, then, before we crack on, right, tell us about bloody Glenda. We want to know.
I noticed you put on your advert that you were doing satellite archaeology. Oh, well, she'd really like that. She watches all this satellite archaeology, for aliens and... No, it's not particularly aliens.
Yes, they are.
That American Sarah something, I've forgotten her surname. She does the Egypt and borrows the American spy satellites to.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched it really. I think you've got to have satellite.
Comes in handy.
We haven't got satellite. It's like that disc that somebody put on. I put on my site, archaeology, Bridgen Archaeology Cymru, and it was a metal disc of a woman beating a man's bum. And it was Netherlands. It was from the Netherlands. But then I realised it was a pun as well.
Well, Anne, do you know what the hell you're talking about?
Oh, you don't follow my Bridge End archaeology site.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to know about women's backsides or men's backsides.
But it was, medieval.
Oh, it's okay then to talk about medieval backsides.
It was made out of tin
Hang on, this is getting weirder and weirder, this.
or copper. Might have been copper.
A copper-bottomed medieval woman. Can we move on, please?
Yeah, yeah, Bill, that's one of the most sensible things you've ever said, ever. Right.
Thank you, Carl.
Right. So one of the things I want to do this week is to introduce again this other concept of cursus monuments, which we have sort of touched upon, as I keep saying. I want to say as well next week, because we're a little bit behind. We're going to next week we're going to be looking at the barrow diggers part 4. So we're going to be looking at that next week, and then we're going to be coming back to again look at more of these Neolithic monuments. But as I feared by looking at the Neolithic period, as I very much feared by looking at the Neolithic period, the list of sites that I want to look at is growing and building as the weeks go by. And I'm having to divide the lectures into 2 sections, a bit of this site at this beginning and whatever. So the Dorset Cursus Monument is something that we'll be looking at today, as brief as it is. But cursuses are monumental Neolithic structures resembling ditches or trenches. And there are a few on the continent, but they're mainly in Great Britain and Ireland, across the whole plethora of Great Britain, except for the islands. Relics found within them are very, very rare. And, they're mainly spaces which are zones. And they inevitably date from roughly up to 6,000 years ago. And they finish in use by around 5,000 years ago. They're monuments that seemingly were used for a purpose. It can only be described as if you look at this in your mind and you think, right, the normal level ground, and then there's a ditch, and then there's a bank, and then there's an open space, and a bank, and a ditch, and the normal land, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is with lots of these cursus monuments is that they failed in their rationale of being able to stand up the weathering of time. And what we mean by that is, if we can just quickly go off here and we can do this, and we can do a little bit of a share, and we could do a bit of a whiteboard, and we can do this. Basically, if we want to do a cross section of an everyday cursus monument, you've got the normal ground level, and you've got a ditch, usually rounded, and this is where the floor is in the whole architecture of this monument. And you go across, sometimes 10 meters across, sometimes 100 meters across, and you've got the ditch, and you've got this. The floor of these monuments is here. And why that is a floor is that there's no berm. Now, what if you've got a monument that is shaped something like this, what happens is that the erosion into the ditch is dissipated. In other words, what we're saying is that this isn't slipping directly into the ditch. So in other words, these monuments would show better and fare better in the landscape if they'd been constructed like this. But as they're constructed like this, what simply happens is, over time, this actually goes directly into the ditch. So most cursus monuments show only as crop marks or soil marks within the landscape. So but maybe that was deliberate. Maybe that was deliberate. But some of the ditches can be very
Very what?
Has he not paid the electricity bill?
Looks like.
Ooh. What's that, Pete? Bill?
We haven't heard you for 10 minutes.
There's a 10-second pause then. We lost you totally.
Did I? Oh, right. Okay. Right. Okay. I was going to say something else. Thank you. So, when people describe these monuments, right, they always sort of say, "Oh, the ditch itself is like is about 1.5 meters, and the bank is 1.5 meters," and they just leave it like that. Well, if you put these two figures together, that's 3 meters. So, in other words, from the base of the ditch, the bank is in fact 3 meters tall. Now, to get to the top of the bank, you've got to go to the base of the ditch, and you've got to go like this, and it's 3 meters high. If this happens to be 3 meters deep, and this happens to be 3 meters tall, this is a 6-meter bank. And very few writers actually describe it in that way. And that means that these monuments are very difficult to get access into. So another point to actually be made, and what I want to say today is that whatever happens today, we're going to be finished by 9, right? That's it. So if we don't get through all this, we'll be doing cursus monuments again in 2 weeks anyway. So the other point I want to make is the accessibility or non-accessibility of these monuments. So if you think about these cursus monuments, the one for the cursus monument at Stonehenge, the archetypal cursus monument at Stonehenge, is shaped very much like this. But the Dorset cursus monument is actually shaped in a different way. It's shaped like this. In other words, it's rounded rather than linear, as you would find with the cursus monument at Stonehenge. So they are built in different ways. The one at Stonehenge seems to be a bit more sort of, I don't know, more advanced. It may have actually been a later one. And we don't really know if they were all built before avenues and before the stone circle monuments. Most of them were. When we look at Thornbury henges last week, the 3 henges at Thornbury, Thornborough, we saw that the cursus monument went underneath the central henge at Thornborough. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they all date to roughly 5,500 or 6,000 years ago. 1 or 2 might be later, naturally. The other point I want to make as well, this is something that we didn't address this on Tuesday, so maybe I might have to repeat this next in a couple of weeks on Tuesday. Talking about accessibility and inaccessible. So if you've got a monument like this and there's no entrances, you might think that, oh, all you've got to do is go down the ditch and go up the bank, and then you're in this middle area. It's not as easy as that. There's 2 things stopping you, right? The one thing that's stopping you is the fact this ditch is fairly deep, and then you've got to scramble at the bank, right? We do see that these were actually cleaned out on a regular basis for the time that they're actually used for. This is the cursus monuments, right? That's the one thing stopping you. It's actually quite a steep bank, right? The other thing stopping you is don't go in there, right? You're not allowed into this. You're not allowed into this area. It's forbidden territory. When I was a child, my parents used to say, don't go in that room, or don't go in the garage. So you wouldn't go in the garage and you wouldn't go in the room. But there's a door there and you can just open the door and you go in, right? It's the same as somebody saying, don't go in my car. Well, you've left the keys in the ignition, but don't go in the car, right? Well, I went in my parents' car this one day. I took the brake off and it went down the hill. Somebody jumped into the car and stopped the car, right? However, but if I'd have listened to my parents who said, don't go in the car, then everything would have been fine. But the point I'm making is that it's not the physicality of this, okay? It's actually, don't go in there. It's actually the demonstration, the witness statement. There's no spikes, or there's nothing indicated. There's no wall on the top or anything. There's nobody defending it. It's the land of the ancestors. This is a monument, the land of the ancestors. This is where the ancestors go. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to the images, and we're going to see if we may look a little bit more about Dorset cursus monuments. And the cursus monuments, spelled C-U-R, the C is pronounced K, from the Latin cursus, as in the circus of Rome. Cursus, circus. It was they thought these were actually used for chariot racing tracks, or Roman circuses of some description, as coined by William Stukeley in 1723 when he first come across the one at Stonehenge. So if we go off here now, and we move from there, and we stop the share, and we go on to my images, and we go there, and we start now, and we go. I've got to go into my images. Hang on a minute. I'm having a blonde moment a minute. It's that wig that you lent me, Anne. It's giving me a blonde moment. So that shows you part of one of the ditches at the Dorset cursus monument, and you can actually see that ditch is very deep. I tell you what, I think this is actually from the 1982 excavation of part of the route. I tell you what, you wouldn't get away with that with health and safety.
No.
That is actually quite shocking. That is really shocking, because it's not going to take, it wouldn't take much for that just to collapse. And I would not be an archaeologist wanting to work in that trench for health and safety. Should be at least 3 meters wide, and should be boarded and shouldered up on one side, right? But this is, anyway, I'm going too much onto something else. This gives you an idea of how deep part of the ditch is. The ditch at the Dorset cursus monument isn't like this all the way for the entire length, right? It's only part of the Dorset cursus is actually this depth. So what I'd like to do is I would like to try and talk as much as I can now, but we are not going to get through this today, but that's life. So Dorset cursus, Neolithic cursus, and it runs for a whopping 10 kilometers, 6¼ or 6½ miles in length. It's made up of 2 separate monuments that have been added together. So the northern one, which is the Pentridge cursus, and the south one, which is the Gussegg cursus monument. So if we look there, we can see where the 2 of them join together at Bottlebush Down Terminal. No, it's not a train terminal, and don't talk silly stuff. It's in Dorset, across the down or chalklands of Dorset, and its extreme length makes it a notable example of this class of linear earthwork. It is better interpreted as a pair of same length cursuses constructed end to end, so 2 cursuses added together. So at Bottlebush Down. So most of it can be actually understood from aerial photography, or a staining on aerial photography. Very little remains above ground of the Dorset cursus monument, as so demonstrated. And it goes across this undulating chalkland. It doesn't follow a feature as a ridge. What it does, it goes, oh, there we go. Gives you an idea. West of Salisbury, the Dorset cursus northern edge, and it goes to sort of an angle, southwest, that sort of thing. And if we look at the way it works, so Martin Down, there we go, heading all the way to Blandford Forum. I've actually been to Blandford Forum. I don't know why. Oh yeah, I met a woman on a date there. And we went for a meal, actually. It was okay. She was a bit nuts.
Did she pay?
I actually paid, Bill.
What?
I actually paid, and I had vegetarian sausages. It cost me 15 quid. I was really upset. And her meal was, I don't know, something else. So she had a lot more to eat than me. Yeah,
Carry on.
don't know.
Was that when you tried to jump off the cliff?
Hang on. Carry on.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, shut up. Right, no, I didn't jump off a cliff. I tried to climb a cliff, you stupid
Oh,
woman.
yeah, sorry. You fell.
Let me do it. Right, Martin Down. You can see that it goes over hill and down valley, right? And it's best seen via looking at crop marks or soil marks. Basically, crop marks, as we've already said, is when the crop would grow high above a ditch and would grow low above the bank because there's stony bank, right? And the rest of the field would be a normal colour. That's sort of your sort of archetypal way of looking at crop marks. And soil marks is when the land's been ploughed, and what you would see is a definition of the land across the landscape being sort of fairly dark, and then where the ditch is and where the bank is, it would like be a paler colour where you've got the chalk from underneath that's been spread across the field. So seen through aerial photography, geophysics, and the one thing about this, as you can clearly make out, is it just follows the landscape. It just goes down and it goes up and it goes down and it goes up and it goes down and it goes up. It just keeps going. And one of the things, it was built at a time when the landscape had no sense of ownership. So in other words, what we're saying is that there was no territorial thing. The equivalent today of building this is HS2. So in other words, the people who built this just said, right, we're going to build this here and we're going to keep going, right? And we're going to see where it goes and we're going to stop. And there's nobody going to stop you because there's small communities living across the landscape. So the line between here is usually about 80 odd 100 meters apart, the two parallel lines, external ditch, and the bank being on the inside. It can meander, it sort of keeps going, and you know, it's just a rather intriguing, wonderful monument, but it's been a lot more destroyed over more recent times because of deep ploughing and the dig for Britain in the Second World War. The orientation of the monuments, we've already said, of the Cursus monument is northeast to southwest. It does not follow nothing perfect. There's nothing sort of has to be linear. The quasi-linear course of the cursus means, so if we go to this again, it ignores topographical features. It goes across valleys, it follows valleys, it goes across streams and all the rest of it. It is by no means flat, and there is also no overall downhill direction, as you can bloody see. Look at that. It's like one of my statistics of one of my videos that I might put on YouTube. You know, nobody watches it, then it goes up, and then nobody watches it, then it goes up, that type of thing. So the one at the Gussig down at the bottom, it's basically got two valleys associated with it, and the Pembridge one just goes across one sort of one valley. So if we sort of, oh, hang on. If we keep looking there, and I could give you a little bit of a description, actually, this is looking good. So the interpretation of this, the absence of any evidence for a more mundane purpose, it is assumed that the cursus served a religious or ceremonial function. I completely disagree with that. I've always disagreed with that thought for many, many years. It's not something I just come up with last week. I've always thought that more so the cursus monuments than avenues, I've always thought that this is the place for the ancestors. It's something that me and Bill come across a lot when we were in Orkney. Martin Carruthers, the idea that the ancestors are what we're speaking to underground, the ancestors, a tribute to the ancestors, you know, in regards to sort of the standing stones and all the rest of it. There is considerable speculation about the links between the ritual landscape and the course of the cursus. The cursus only significant astronomical alignment is related to its southwesterly orientation. And they say that its southwesterly orientation, the Gusset Cursus terminal of Bottlebush Down, It sounds like a battle, doesn't it, in the American Civil War? The Battle of Bottle Bush Down Terminal. And it's basically saying that here, where this terminal on Bottle Bush Down is, would see the midwinter sun set behind the long barrow lying across the cursus on the ridge of Gussig Down. But unfortunately, right, the barrows themselves came after the cursus monument was constructed. So that's a bit of a weird one. It has also been suggested that any procession along the cursus would take place from the Martin Down terminal in a southwesterly direction for maximum visual impact. So you're going southerly. Now, looking at this, and we will actually, we will actually finish by 9. Because we're nearly finished. Archaeological excavation of the eastern ditch indicates that it was permitted to silt up rapidly and may therefore have been fallen out of use quite soon after being built, before being reappropriated by later peoples. This is a reappropriated landscape. Look at all the later barrows. It's dotted with it. And Cranbourne Trace will come up again because we look at the excavations of the archaeologists next week associated with Cranbourne Chase. Later Bronze Age sites, such as the Barrow cemeteries at Wyke Down, as you can clearly see, appear to have respected the presence of the cursus. Instead of building directly in the ditch or on the bank of the cursus, they're either building inside or outside of it. This is in massive contrast to the Roman engineers who just said, oh, crap, we're just going to build across it. The Acklin Dyke. Across the middle of the cursus on Wyke Down, and also cut across the barrows in the Oakley Down cemetery. So in other words, the Romans just sort of built whatever they did building. But you can get an idea there that I think maybe that there, 1982, is the image that we've seen earlier on, rather than that. So if we go back there, massively interesting looking at that and sort of really deep how that is. And obviously this is what it looks like from above, and obviously lots of the plans of this sort of landscape. So what we are going to do, we're going to call that a day. That's a nice roundup of 2 separate lectures put together in one. You can imagine on a Tuesday evening, we start about 7:30 and we don't finish at 9:10. I don't know how we managed to do it. I think it's the drugs that we're smoking or something.
Right, but, hold it there, Carl. Can I go first?
Yes!
Well, let me go first.
Okay, so that is not a cross section. That's the elevation from start to finish, 6.2 miles. Yeah. So so all those dips are natural.
Yeah, hang on. Yeah, 6.2 miles. Yeah, that's the elevation. That's the topographical elevation. Yeah.
So what forms the edges of that then, as we see from the plan? Is it another ditch? A definite ditch?
Oh, right. So
look at the plan, okay, and you can see the outline. You can see the actual the edges, if you like, of the cursors. Are those edges the ditches which stand out, or are they little mounds? I'm not sure what they are.
Right. So yeah. So basically,
exactly what are those? They look like ditches, don't they? The edges.
Right. So basically, the white staining's the bank.
Yeah.
And the black staining's the ditch. So
right,
in other words, So
right.
Natural landscape.
Yeah, I got
ditch,
it.
Bank, natural landscape, bank, ditch, natural landscape.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Right.
Got it. Good. I'm glad you asked. You'd have gone away with a different sort of thing. That's good. Right. Okay then. Well, I'm glad you. Anything else, Bill?
No, that's me. Thank you.
Right. Okay. What we're going to do now, we're going to go on to our French friend Henri.
Only in the dark.
Oh God, that sounds like a film. Mind you, it sounds like one of those dodgy porn films, Henri in the Dark.
Well, I'm worried about Henry. He can't afford to put the lights on. I think we've got to give him some money, actually. So.
No. What is it? What it is his missus, right? She dresses up in black like lycra. She wanders around the house, and it has to be dark.
No.
It's all dark.
Right, Henry.
Light outside.
Right, Henry, talk to us.
I didn't really have any questions because I think again it goes back to whether certainly the Dorset one. I didn't notice any water either side, so obviously there's no connection with water. Whereas the one in Cumbria, that there may have been.
But the sense of the avenues is very different, because if you look at the Stonehenge Avenue, it actually goes to the River Avon, and then it goes to Stonehenge. So there's always a direct link between water and the avenues. If you look at the avenue associated with West Kennet, there are sort of there is a spring associated with it as well. So the avenues are slightly different monuments, rather than a sense of mundaneness as described earlier on with this monument. But for me, it's not mundane. It's really exciting, actually. But anything else, Henry?
Okay, no, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and for your comments as well. Right, what we're going to ask now is we're going to ask Anne.
Oh, I like the idea of an area of land where just the ancestors go. You know, I've always liked that idea. The sort of spiritual area, really.
You know, and I say, why not? But it's something that we really miss. It's like when we go to a cemetery today and people have put their plaques and they're associated with somebody who's cremated. It's like, you know, it's where they have gone. It's where their loved ones have gone to. We do it today, and I think there is that sort of link with the ancestors. You know. Yeah, I've got a burial ground here with about 30 animals buried in it, right? And every type of animal that you could mention. We've got a badger, we've got chickens, we've got ducks, we've got very rare birds of prey, all sorts of things buried, right? And I've got trees buried there, and it's like a special place.
Yeah.
And you get that sense of specialness.
Yeah. Oh,
so
how's the have you still got the blackbird or the rook, or is it
oh no, Bran. Oh no, Bran. No, I don't. I still have Bran. What Bran basically, she stayed with us for about 2 years, and I think she became very mature, and she actually did say goodbye to me this one day, and she just left.
Oh, because Glenda was asking about her, so I could tell her that.
Basically, I'll tell you the full story. Bran went away for two weeks, and I was really worried about her. And then what happened is that I was going somewhere this one day, and she was tapping at the window. So I put some food out for her, and I opened the door. She flew in. She sat on the sofa. She squawked at me, and she came over to me. And then she went outside and she flew off. Never saw her again. So she did say goodbye.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thanks for that.
My pleasure. And finally, Richard, you may as well stay on for a couple of minutes, but it's only going to be a couple of minutes then, Richard. Okay. Anything you want to say, Rich?
No, nothing really. It's just quite a strange, you know, trying to get your head around what they use them for.
Okay. Yeah. No, it is. It is.
Trying to put it into a modern sort of context.
Well,
I think we spoil it by trying to put it into a modern context, and I think what we should do is recognise that they had a different concept than us.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Richard and I not understanding why children spend hours on the internet playing games, and we're thinking, well, why do they do that? It's like a modern thing of why did they think, you know?
And I think, you know, when I go to a cemetery or anything, I don't think of the person as being in the ground. I think of some other place, you know. So I think that's what they tried to describe, was the other place.
The other place. Yeah.
the souls go, you know, like heaven, and, you know, that sort of thing.
As the men without hats in their song, where do all the boys go?
Yeah. Where do all
Right,
the young men
I know
go?
where I'm going. Good night, everyone.
Right.
Bye, Bill.
Okay, then.
Bye-bye.
Good
No,
night,
Phil, I'll see you
Don't
next
want to
week.
keep you awake.
Oh no, I'm away next week, Carl. Sorry, you want to see me next week?
Okay, we'll see you
I'm
in 2
away.
weeks then.
Sorry, I'm always away. You know that.
Bill's with his woman, Karen.
well.
All right, then.
I'm like a yo-yo. Ta-da.
Bye-bye then. Bye.
Right, Henri, are you off to?
Bye.
Are we seeing you next week, Henri? He's gone.
Henry.
Where's
Hello?
Henri gone?
Oh no,
Right,
I haven't
Henri.
gone. The internet fell off the edge of a cliff.
All
Oh,
right, then. Henri, okay, we'll see you next week then.
Certainly, yes. Have a good week.
Have a
thank
good week,
you.
Henri. I'll see you
Have a
then.
good week. You too.
Bye.
You
Bye-bye.
too. That's a good
Bye.
group,
Bye,
guys. No,
Richard.
no, Henri.
Bye, Clive.
Yeah.
Carl. I called you
Anne.
Clive. I called you Clive.
No, no, Anne.
Oh, take care of yourself now.
I will. All right, Anne. All right. Right, Richard, I'll just close this recording up. I'll just, I always finish my, just bear with me. So somebody put 2 messages in there and we answered this. It said, have they found anything buried? And not really. We don't really find much buried across cursus monuments, and the avenue up north, Shap, not much has been found with that because it really haven't been excavated. On maps, you have water either side of the stones, one a river, the other a beck. You do see this with avenues, but you don't necessarily see this with cursus monuments. So don't forget to like and subscribe out there, anyone watching these, and we'll have another one next week, Neolithic. So stop the recording now on 3,